I'm Josh Evans, and I love to help businesses build the right culture within their organizations so they can be more profitable. Do you want more engaged employees? Do you want your company to be more productive? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to share with you the tools that I've used with hundreds of companies varying in size from 60,000 person conglomerates down to 5-person teams. So get ready and join me so we can build the right culture for your business.
Good morning, I'm Joshua Evans, and welcome back to my show. I'm here to chat with you about all sorts of stuff that can help your company be better. So I had this conversation with somebody recently, and we hadn't had many conversations before. He's actually a friend of a friend of a friend, right? So you get introduced to new people. And so we had set up a call that I thought was to discuss working together on a certain event. And so I thought that's what the call was going to be about. And this person had a total different idea about what the call was going to be. They thought it was just going to be a meet and greet and just kind of a how you doing, this is who I am, this is what I do. But I thought it was going to be a much more intense, deep dive conversation about what they were going to be able to provide to this event that we're working on. And so it's my fault for not being clear in this conversation, but it made me realize we're always so, liable for the miscommunications in our lives. And the big thing that struck me is what you take into a conversation is what you get back from that conversation. So I'll repeat that again. What you take into a conversation is what you receive back during that conversation. And the reason I like to think it, because if I walk into a conversation, all of a sudden I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that I'm not getting the information I need. Then they become frustrated because I'm not satisfied with the communication that's taking place between us. And so with those ideas in mind, I think a lot of us carry our baggage into every conversation. We carry this baggage, and I don't mean physical baggage, but I mean all preconceptions, right, that we have about this certain of situation. Everything that we've thought about before, everything we've encountered before. If I've ever met somebody that has the same hairstyle before, that is influencing the way that I'm handling this conversation. All right, so what you take into a conversation is what you receive back. And so if I take frustration or prejudices or false ideas into a conversation, that's what I'm going to get back from the other person. However, if I take an open mind into the conversation, if I take a stance of trying to understand before being understood into a conversation, it makes it so much easier to communicate, and it makes it so much better. I think what we don't realize is this burden of communication does fall on us to make sure that we're communicating well and that we're being upfront with people. There's a certain level of understanding that we need to walk into a situation with. I had a good client recently, and we were talking about some of their employees. And so they've gone through a few employees recently, and the problem is that these employees are hired to do a certain thing, and they come in and they cannot finish the tasks and responsibilities that are on their plate for this sort of a role. It's not that they're not qualified. I think, and this is what I told my client, he is not, right? So he's the president of this company. That's about 60, 70 people. But it's a fair-sized company. They've been growing steadily the past 10 years. Like, they've been growing seriously, almost 50 and 60% every single year over year. And so they have a really nice company, and it's really profitable, but he keeps bringing these people into these high-level marketing positions that he's trying to fill out. And they're just not able to live up to the standard that he's taken into this initial conversation. So he puts together the requisition. He says, this is what the kind of experience I want. This is what I want them to do. I want them to be a self-starter. They always put that in a resume, right? They have all this whole list of responsibilities and functions and all the things that he wants in this role. And he finds people that fit it to a T. And then he gets them into a meeting and he expects them to be a mind reader. See, that's his fault. He's taking all of his preconceptions into this conversation, right? He's taking all of his ideas, all of his understanding about what this role needs to be, and just carrying it with him and being like, why aren't you fitting the bill for this exact thing that I'm imagining in my head? Yet he's not even spending the time to explain his expectations. He's taking all these things that he has, right? And he's probably taken a lot of the bad feelings that he has from previous people that he's had to let go, because he's now had to fill that role 3 times on his 3rd person. I was like, man, obviously there's something wrong. It's not the role, and it's not these 3 people, because he spends a lot of time and he interviews so many people. So he vets these people fully, and they get into the role and they fail to live up to his expectations. They fall short. And so we're trying to discuss why, because it's expensive to onboard new people, especially at this level, right? These are chief marketing officers. And so he's concerned that there's some fundamental flaw with the role that he's created. And there might be, but what I've suggested to him is that he's taking all of this stuff and all of this luggage and baggage and information into these conversations with them. So once they start, he's expecting them to have all this intrinsic knowledge about the role and about how to deal with you and communicate with you, and they don't have that. So I think somewhere in his mind, he kind of lumped together all these people that he's had to semi-train or train up into the position, right, or get them ready for the position, or preface how he likes to manage and run his company. And the problem with that is then you get somebody new in after you let somebody go, and he has the expectations that they're supposed to be up to the level of when he let go the last person. Right? And so what he needs to realize, and I've been trying to really force him to realize this, is that what you take into a conversation is what you'll get back out of it. So if he walks into a conversation with unrealistic expectations, then the other person in the conversation is going to have unrealistic expectations of him. If he walks into a conversation with all these preconceptions about how that person is going to react to him or how that person is going to perform in that role, then that person that he's talking to is now going to have all these their own preconceptions about how he manages and how he has his finger on the pulse of the company and how he wants to be worked with. What we take into a conversation is what we receive back from it. I know it sounds so crazy that what we imagine dictates how the conversation goes and how all these meetings go, but it's true. It's true. If you walk into a meeting and think this is going to be a terrible meeting, I bet you 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a terrible meeting. But if you walk into a new client, be like, this is an opportunity to learn what they do and to talk about it and kind of open up the forum for discussion. Watch, most of the time, and seriously, it's 9 times out of 10, the mindset you carry into every single situation, every conversation, every meeting is going to be the tone for it, right? What you take into a conversation is what you receive out of it. So why wouldn't you be open-minded? Why wouldn't you seek to understand more? Because you want to be understood. We all do. We all desire people to hear what we're saying and to I guess, take it on as their own. But we need to do that first. People are a lot more likely to listen to you if you listen to them first. Have you noticed that? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I had a client recently. This is one of the craziest stories I've ever seen. His name's Daniel, right? So he's the president of this company. They've got about, 150 employees. It's a pretty good sized company though. They've been building it for the past 15 years, and he's worked his way up from like entry level, like floor staff member, all the way up, and now he's become president. He's been president for 3 years now, after the owner died, and he's done a phenomenal job. They're up 68% this past year from where they were. It's amazing how they've expanded. They've added 2 other offices. It's really neat to watch them as they grow this company. He was really committed to making this an amazing place to work. But he had a big problem. See, Daniel, and he told me this early on when we started working together a couple of years ago, he wants to change his company. He has this huge grand vision for what it could be. He's someone that truly believes that he can change the culture of the company and make it like a cool place to work. And he was doing a phenomenal job. But his hands got tied quickly by the owner of the company. Somebody who didn't really have a say in the day-to-day operations. All they saw was numbers, and they saw him spending money on stuff like training and development and putting up a gym and sponsoring cycling teams within their company. And these things that can be seen as frivolous expenses if you're just looking at line item numbers, but that made perfect sense if you look at the growth that they've had since he started implementing these things. And so he's such a smart guy. Right? And he had the vision for what this company could become, but his hands kept getting tied by this the owner of the company, right? So Daniel, he's trying to direct the entire ship that is this company, right? I mean, he's in charge of everything. And then he's got this owner in his ear kind of whispering, no, you can't do that. Stop doing that. Cut costs here. Do this. Why are you doing that? And he's having to explain himself all the time. And not only is it wasting his time having to explain himself, even though it's showing fruit already, it's also degrading him, right? So he's supposed to have the highest role in the company, right, which is making every single decision. He is president of this company. He's supposed to have that role. And somebody who's above him, an absentee, is now making him feel inferior. So that inferiority transfers into every large meeting he has with potential partners, right, or joint ventures they're trying to join forces with. Now he's carrying that into all these meetings. Not only that, because of the way that he's belittled by the president or by the owner, right? But the reason that he carries now, when The owner belittles him. The president, right, Daniel, goes into these meetings and he feels belittled, right? And he occasionally gets these inklings that people on his team don't respect him or don't appreciate him. When in all reality, because I've done the surveys through the company, they do. They love him. They think he's a phenomenal president of the company. They love the fact that he's at the helm. But the president's not letting him do his thing fully, right? He's still leashed. And every time they would get together, right, because the president would have to meet with them quarterly to discuss the company, there was always this deep discussion, right, about how the owner wanted the company to be run. And if you hire good people, they let them do that, right? But the owner would always walk into these meetings expected to be rarefied, right? He wanted the president of the company to pay him homage and to praise him for how smart he was, because this guy's, and I've met the owner, his ego's monstrous. He's got a huge ego. And so he would carry this ego into every meeting, and then he would wonder why the staff and the owner, the staff and the president of the company wouldn't show him respect. He said, why is everybody disrespecting me? And it's not because of some deep-seated thing where nobody wanted to respect him. It's because he didn't respect others. You can't get respect from people if you don't show respect to people. And this owner who's, as I said, absentee and inherited the company, it just expects to, be praised for something he didn't even do when he hasn't even shown praise to others. He walked in just expecting people to think he was phenomenal. He's like, why isn't everybody clapping for me? Why don't they think I'm just great? I mean, they're all my employees. But really, are they? You're just the owner of the company at this point. You didn't have a say in their hiring. You didn't have a say in the operations of the company. You didn't have a say in any of the growth. You're just sitting there collecting checks. And the crazy thing about it is it created such a huge tension between the owner and then the president, who's actually hardworking and actually growing this company, has actually been with it for decades. And so now this guy's gotten into this role. He's the president of the company, and he's just being belittled constantly by the owner. And it came to a head. It literally just came to a head last week. Last week, the owner had done enough things to usurp power from the president and taken so much ego into every conversation. The president of the company goes, you know what? I'm tendering my resignation. It's now the president of this company that had been there for over 15 years, right? Who had seen extensive growth of the company since he took over, like crazy good growth, right? Had built up a team, multiple offices now, had built an amazing culture because now they're actually cycling. They have good meals brought in. It's a cool place to work now. But now that president, he goes, you know what? I can't deal with your ego. You are trying to, be overbearing in the role of owner. You sit there, collect your checks, let me run the company. And the owner could never let him do that. And the owner's ego wouldn't let him do that either. So the owner takes credit for all this stuff. He doesn't give credit for any of the good things that have been done by Daniel. And so Daniel's like, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm washing my hands of you. I'm tendering my resignation. I'm happy to help with, hand off or transfer, whatever you want me to do. But I'm done here. And so then the owner's handler, or I guess attorney, right? The owner's attorney sitting there was like, look, is there any way you can come back? We want to keep you here for a couple of months to really help with the transition. We don't want to lose the momentum that you started. Is there any way we can do that? And the president asked for one simple thing from the owner. He goes, yes, I would like an apology from the owner. That's all I want. And the ego on this owner wouldn't allow him just to apologize. It blew my mind that this guy's going to lose millions and millions of dollars in sales because they're losing their president who had the vision for what this company has become. Because the owner was just so egotistical and so self-centered, and he took that into every conversation. He can't even say sorry. So now Daniel, who's an amazing guy, who's going to land some phenomenal place and make another company great, I know it, right, is free from this company. He tried, but the owner wouldn't do that, right? Because the owner was just taking all his preconceptions, all of his ego, all of his self-centered behavior, and he was taking that into every conversation, and it absolutely alienated everybody that talked to him. So now I hope the company does all right. I hope the new management team does a good job, but they lost somebody phenomenal because they were taking all the wrong things into these conversations. You don't get to keep great people around if you take negative things into conversations, right? What you take into a conversation is what you receive out of it. So when this owner was taking negativity and accusatory stances into a conversation, that's exactly what he got back from it. I bet if the owner had walked into these meetings and been appreciative of people, they would have been appreciative of him. But he chose a negative route, and he lost one of the hardest working people I've ever known. So if you're out there and you're in a situation like this, where you're in a role where you either manage people or you have a manager above you that you have to kind of manage, I think we've all been in those kind of situations, right? Remember, what you take into a conversation is what you receive out of it. So if you want respect, you should first show respect to other people. If you want to be appreciated, you need to show appreciation to others. I think we all need certain things out of life, but you should be the person that you need to others. And then that person will show up for you. What you take into a conversation is what you receive out of it. So make sure you're pouring good things into the people around you. Not negative things, good things. Because that's what you'll get back out. Right? You're paying I don't know, it's an investment in their commitment to you later. Anyway, I know this is kind of a serious conversation, and it's been irking me because he's now a good friend of mine, but he's been a client for 2 years, is in this situation where he's now got the world at his fingertips. The world is his oyster. He can go get a job anywhere because of his attitude, because of his mentality. And he was pushed out the door because somebody else was carrying this baggage, this negativity into every conversation. And so, look, if anybody here wants to reach out and let me know what's going on with them, or ask a question about how to make your company better internally, or how to manage your people better, I'd love to share that on the air. So you can email me at info@joshuamevans.com, or hit me up on any social media @enthusiasticu. I hope you have a great rest of your day.